let's talk about the N-word deception, right? And let's just be real, let's just be straight up. Sometimes you hear, some people say there's a difference between N-I-G-G-A and N-I-G-G-E-R. But when you really get down to it, I mean, sometimes we just don't pronounce the ER on the end of words. It don't have to be the N word, right? It could be bigger, we'll say bigger. It can be trigger, we'll say trigger. It could be liquor, and that don't even end in ER, right? So if we being really realistic about it, we just don't pronounce the ER on the end of some words sometimes. That's really what that is. People didn't really get together and really say, you know what, we're gonna create a new a new way to say the N-word. We're gonna drop the ER, we're gonna make sure we have a hard A on the end, and that's gonna be the way we embrace it and say that. That didn't really happen. We just don't pronounce that ER sometimes, some of us. That's just, that's really what it is, right? And when you really think about it, think about this. Let's really delve into this. Let's say somebody did say, you know what, we're gonna start pronouncing the hard A instead of the ER, and we're gonna make that our own, and then, that's how we gonna use this word. And my whole thing is, first of all, we should try to understand how we got to the point where we comfortable calling each other that word, knowing the history of that word in the country, knowing it was used as an insult, one would say as a way to demean black people. How did we say, okay, that's the word that we want to mimic and duplicate, and we want to use that word? Did we really make a decision to do that? And if we really didn't make a decision to do that, how did we get tricked into that, and knowing the history of it, and still fight and scratch and claw to actually still do it? How did that duping happen if it took place, right? And my whole thing is, even though I don't believe this happened, if people did get together and say, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna drop the ER, we're gonna have the hard A on the end, why would you want to choose that word knowing the history of it? Like I say, I don't believe that happened anyway, but why would you choose that word? You know what I'm saying? Another thing is that, some people say that, okay, let's stay right here right quick, and then we're gonna go to the next point. We have to be real too. People don't only use that word, even with the hard A on it, in a endearing or friendly type of way. If somebody stole $100 from you, you say, oh, that such and such stole my $100. Tell that when I see him, I'm gonna do him something bad, So, you use it in a derogatory, if this supposed to be like a term of it, and yeah, this album, you still use it in a derogatory, inflammatory way sometimes anyway, right? Now, some people say, well, in actuality, that word wasn't created here. It actually was created elsewhere, and they kind of flipped the definition of it. So some people say it was negus, N-E-G-U-S, right? And they flipped it and they twisted and they turned it and stuff like that. And they say the original word actually means king. Well, let me say a couple things about that, right? The one that people are using over here is N-I-G-G-E-R or N-I-G-G-A, right? So it's not N-E-G-U-S, and it don't mean king. We know what that one mean over here in America. So this is a word that have a different spelling and a different meaning. So you are no longer calling, if that's what you're saying, you're no longer calling somebody a king or N-E-G-U-S. They're calling them, as people would call it, N-I-G-G-A. Not the same spelling, and it's not the same definition. And even the black people who use it, when they say such and such stole my money, tell that when I see him, he's not calling him a king. He's not saying, tell that king he better come back with my money, or when I see him it's on. That's not what he's doing, right? So even he uses it in a derogatory, inflammatory way. He's not using it in a king type of way. And if it is to be used in a king type of way, how about instead of using the derogatory, Americanized term, right? N-I-G-G-A or N-I-G-G-E-R, knowing what that means, just skip that and call each other king, right? What up, king? All right, I see you, king. Just do that if that's really what it's being. But the question is that really what it's being used for? No, it's the derogatory. We know the history of it in America. Is that one? So how did it get to the point where we, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's saying that we got tricked or duped into calling each other that and embracing that, knowing what it means, if we're gonna be real about it. Let me know what you think about it. Tell me in the comments. Talk to me about it.